o'clock. This meeting is called to order. Neil, would you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Our first order of business is to approve minutes from previous meetings, starting with a work session on February 24, 2014.
I move we approve the minutes as submitted.
Second.
It's been moved by Mike, seconded by Bill. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those minutes are approved. And for the students present here tonight from Plymouth Regional High School, we receive copies of the minutes before our meeting starts. We get them by email, so we have a chance to read them and know what they say. So if it seems awfully quick that we're approving, that's why. We've read them in advance. Next, we have the minutes from the regular Select Board meeting on February 24, 2014.
Move that those minutes be accepted as written.
Second.
It's been moved by Bill, seconded by Mike. All those in favor? Aye. Moving on to announcements. The Select Board will meet on the following dates. We have a tentative work session scheduled for 5 p.m. on March 31st, 2014. That will be held on an as-needed basis. Regular meetings at 6 p.m. on April 14 and April 28, 2014, with work review sessions prior to the regular meeting starting at 5 p.m. We will have 2 public hearings during the regular Select Board meeting on April 14, 2014, beginning at 6:15 p.m. And please note that is a change from our previous starting time for public hearings of 6:30, and that was voted on at a meeting recently. The first public hearing is to accept unanticipated funds from a grant from Homeland Security for upgrades to the Plymouth Police Department's Emergency Dispatch Center. The second public hearing is to designate a portion of unanticipated revenue from a logging operation to be utilized for the town's portion of the Airport Master Plan Project grant. All of the above meetings will be held in the Town Hall unless otherwise posted. Weather observations for the month of February are available in the Town Hall. Plymouth State University will test their PSU emergency outdoor siren, I think that's backwards, emergency alert siren at noon on Tuesday, March 25th, 2014. And finally, citizens wishing to be listed on the Select Board agenda should notify the Town Hall before 12 p.m. on the Friday before the scheduled meeting. Next on our agenda is a plaque presentation for Dick Lewis for his Select Board service. Dick, would you please come forward? Step over here. We have a plaque presented to Richard Lewis in recognition of your dedicated service to the town of Plymouth while serving as Select Board member from March 2011 to March 2014. Presented by Select Board Valerie Scarborough, Mike Conklin, Bill Bolton, and Neil McIver.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dick.
Thank you. A couple quick things. I think everyone up here will agree with me that serving the residents of the town of Plymouth is both an honor and a privilege. While this may look easy on TV, there's a lot of complex issues that any board deals with on a week-to-week, month-to-month, day-to-day basis. And I just wish for the new board, the slightly amended board, good governing and fair governing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Pleasure. Again, thank you. Thank you. How are you? Sorry to hear about your mom.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dick.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Also, good. Thank you. I'll be good. Well, my signature. Thank you.
Next on the agenda, we have appointments with Mike Ray for reappointment to the Pemmy Baker Solid Waste District. And we have a letter from Pemmibaker Solid Waste District asking that the board appoint representatives from the town. Mike Ray has been our representative in the past with Jeff Trajano as alternate. They both wish to consider representing the town. The letter from Pemmibaker Solid Waste District essentially restates that and tells when the meetings are.
Would you like a motion?
I would like a
I
motion.
would move that Mike Ray and Jeff Trajano be appointed as our representatives to the Pemmibaker Solid Waste District as regular and alternate members respectively.
Second.
It's been moved by Mike, seconded by Neil. Any discussion? There being none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those appointments are approved. And I will pass that along. Next, under correspondence, we have Patrice Scott seeking reappointment to the zoning board. I have Patrice's letter saying, I would be willing to continue serving on the zoning board of adjustment. I have served the town in various capacities over the years, including as a member of the advisory budget committee, Plymouth Housing Study Committee, non-profit review subcommittee, Board of Selectmen, and PSU's Community Relations Task Force. Thank you for your consideration and the opportunity to continue serving the needs of our community in this capacity. Best of luck in the year of the horse. Very truly yours, Patrice Scott. So, is there a motion to approve Patrice's reappointment?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved by Bill, seconded by Mike. All those, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Patrice is reappointed. Next, we have Freeman Plummer seeking reappointment to the zoning board. And he goes into quite a bit of detail in his letter. Says, application for zoning board. My name is Freeman Plummer, and I would like to enter my name on the list for being interested in being a member of the zoning board of the town of Plymouth. Now, I thought Freeman was currently on the board.
He is.
That's what I thought.
He is.
Okay. So I think what he has done is he talks about all of his experience, but he has been a member of the board for at least the past two.
Quite a while, I think.
Yeah,
2007.
since 2007. So without reading his complete correspondence, is there a motion to reappoint Mr. Plummer to the zoning board?
So moved.
Been moved by Mike and seconded by Armand. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Freeman Plummer is reappointed. Next, we have John Kelly seeking reappointment to the planning board. Mr. Kelly's letter, Dear Select Board members, I would like to have my permission on the planning board renewed for another 3-year term. Is there a motion concerning Mr. Kelly?
I'll move to appoint him for another 3-year term.
And I'll second it.
Okay, moved by Neil, seconded by Mike. All those in favor?
Aye.
Mr. Kelly is reappointed. Next, we have Susan Amburg seeking reappointment to Plymouth Parks and Recreation Commission for a 2-year term. Susan's letter states, I am writing to express my interest in reappointment to the Town of Plymouth Parks and Recreation Committee. The Parks and Recreation Department is in the midst of a number of exciting projects which will serve the people of Plymouth well. These include a program evaluation and enhancement of our parks. I would like very much to remain a part of these efforts as well as others. The staff are wonderful people who have the best interest of Plymouth residents in mind always, and you could not ask for a better set of fellow commissioners. Thank you for your consideration. Is there a motion to reappoint Susan Amburg?
So moved.
Seconded.
Okay, moved by Bill, seconded by Armand. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Now we have Kevin Malm seeking reappointment to Plymouth Parks and Recreation Commission for a 3-year term. And Kevin's letter states, I have been a commissioner for several years, currently serve on the Facilities Committee. I have been involved in the renovations at Fox Park, as well as Family Fun Day, concerts on the Common, ski and skate sale, to name a few. I would like to continue to serve on the commission to see the completion of the projects I have been involved with, especially hiking and walking trails at Fox Park. Thank you for your consideration. I look forward to my continued service to the town of Plymouth. Is there a motion concerning Mr. Malm?
I'll move to appoint Mr. Malm again.
I'll second that.
Moved by Mike, seconded by Armand. All those in favor? Aye. Mr. Malm is reappointed. Next, we have Alan Merrifield seeking reappointment also to Parks and Recreation for 3 years. His letter, I am writing to express my desire to be reappointed to Plymouth Parks and Recreation Commission. I have been an active member of the commission over the past 6 years, helping to organize and oversee many events that the Parks and Recreation Department has been able to offer our community. With 2 daughters coming up through the school system, I plan to continue my involvement within the schools and the Parks and Recreation Department. I've been able to build a strong relationship with Larry Gibson, Lisa Ash, and other Parks and Recreation Commission members. Please accept this letter as my official request for reappointment for another term. Thank you for your consideration. Is there a motion concerning Alan Merrifield's request for reappointment?
I move to reappoint Alan Merrifield to the Plymouth Parks and Rec Commission.
I second that.
Moved by Bill, seconded by Armand. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That is unanimous. And finally, we have Paul Regalis seeking reappointment to the Plymouth Parks and Recreation Commission for a 3-year term. Paul's letter, I am writing to apply for reappointment to the Plymouth Parks and Recreation Board. I have served on Parks and Rec for the past 6 years, and I have enjoyed my time tremendously. I have served on the Facilities Committee, focusing primarily on long-term planning for the development of Fox Park. I have also worked at all of the Parks and Rec Family Fun Festivals for the past 3 years, as well as our sponsored summer concerts on the Common. I believe that we have done some fine work, and I'm very proud of the programs and accomplishments of the Plymouth Parks and Recreation Department. Personally, I've lived in Plymouth for the past 24 years, and through my 2 children, I've been involved in many of the sports programs in many different capacities through the years, coaching, umpiring, scorekeeping, driving kids to events, and anything else needed. I also work at Plymouth State University, where I am faculty advisor to the student radio station, on which we promote a number of Parks and Rec events. In closing, I love the Parks and Rec program, and I hope I get the chance to continue serving the Plymouth community through my work on the board. Thank you for your consideration. Paul, is there a motion for Paul Regalis reappointment?
I move we appoint Paul Regalis to the Park and Recreation Commission.
Second.
Been moved by Neil, seconded by Mike. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That is approved. Okay. And we have got all of their appointments, which rather than sign them now, I think we'll wait. Yes.
Sorry, I had a clarification on Susan Amburg. That should be a 3-year term and not a 2-year term. Her term actually expired in 2013, and just an oversight.
Okay.
So she should be appointed to 2016. Even though I know you already made the motion to accept a 2-year term, it should be a 3-year.
Okay.
Well, maybe we could amend the motion to say for a 3-year term commencing in 2013.
Commencing at the expiration of
Or the
the prior
expiration of
term.
the prior term.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're all supposed to run
3
concurrently.
years.
Yeah.
And we currently have 1 vacancy. There are 7 members, but we still currently have 1 vacancy that we're trying to fill.
So,
I made the motion, so I accept the amendment. Alan is the
So,
second.
yeah, second.
Good enough? 3-year term.
To commence
At the expiration of the
her
prior term.
Prior term,
In 2013.
And it will be a 3-year term from that date.
which is in keeping with
The others. the other
this appointment certificate
2 years.
because it brings her to April of 2016.
one. Okay.
So, all right.
Thank you. I'm sorry, I tried to get your
No.
attention.
Not a problem, and I apologize, Larry, I
Okay.
should have looked up. All right, it has
Thank you.
been moved and seconded that we amend, or the motion has been amended. All those in favor of the amended motion?
Aye.
Aye. All right, so Plymouth, 3-year term for Susan Amburg. And we can do the signatures, I think, as we're moving along with our meeting. But next on our agenda, we have Jeff Evanchik regarding the Tenny Mountain Ski Area property. Did I pronounce that properly, correctly? All right, that's what I... Would you like to come up and... I'm not sure how you want to do your presentation. You're welcome to take a seat here, and if you'd like to have anybody else join you at the table, that's fine as well.
Handouts.
Yeah, I think I have one.
These have been revised a little since the last one. They're also pads, so you don't
Oh, thanks.
struggle so much to follow me along.
Yeah, one more. Thank you.
Well, thank you for your time today. My name is Jeff Evanchik. I'm with Whipple Construction and Development. We're a firm that's located out of Worcester, Massachusetts. And I've been working with Bob and Woody on Tenny Mountain now, going on its 3rd year. And what we want to go over with you today is kind of our vision of Tenny, what we're trying to accomplish there. Some of the conversations that we've had with some members of the town and some members of the Plymouth Valley Water and Sewer Department. Try to come to an understanding of what we're trying to obtain and then what the town can do within its powers. So that being said, if you want to go to tab 1.
Okay.
This is basically our thought or vision of the mountain in regard to phasing. The objective of this is to reposition Tenny Mountain to enhance its value by creating a vibrant community at the base of the mountain, including a new offering of a family-friendly environment with targeting residential sales, retail, entertainment venues, hotel, conference, function amenities, to enhance the profitability of the mountain and develop it as a 4-season resort. We feel that because of its proximity to 93, its proximity to Boston, its proximity to centers of populace, that we can probably get people to come up here on a 4-season basis. So that being said, you get a location of the market demographic. Basically within 5 hours of a drive of this location, you've got about 35 million people that you can target to come up here. Biggest target areas obviously for us would be Boston, Portland, Manchester, Montreal. Outreach into New York City through Newark, LaGuardia, into Manchester, and then shuttle them up here from there. The team that's going to be doing this, and there'll be one more member added to this, is ourselves, and again, as I stated, we're a 105-year-old general contracting firm. We have over $2 billion worth of development and construction experience. Our team has built over 10,000 residential multifamily units. We understand office and retail and hotel, so that's kind of our strength. Bob Mulcahy is with Landworks, so let you talk about your experience.
Good evening. We're a nationally, internationally recognized resort community planning. I'm an urban planner, landscape architect. I've lived on Newfound Lake for the last 40 years. Very familiar with the mountain, very familiar with the mountain issues, been actively involved in the mountain since 2009, and have prepared several physical plans and concepts that are backed up by market conditions and backed up by constructability. I think how we tend to define ourselves at Landworks is we get to build what we plan. We're not just planners where the end result is a booklet, it's a community. So up front, we know everything that goes into making successful communities. We've had a lot of experience with four-season resorts. We know how to deal with the shoulder seasons and how to develop a destination and how to enhance values over time. This will probably be a 15, 20-year build-out. It's going to take a considerable amount of expertise and patience and taking a very difficult piece of land and developing it in a very sensitive way. So at the end of the day, it's functionally complete, performs well in the market, and is respectful of all the history and traditions of Plymouth. I think the big opportunity from my standpoint is how you make that connection to the downtown, how you complete the downtown and take advantage of its proximity as well as the interstate access. We see this as a gateway project to the White Mountains, and we believe it can be a world-class opportunity.
And our other team member is Woody Miller. He's
Plymouth resident. I know most of you, and I also represent the firms that are trying to sell the property right now, so I also have that perspective of the difficulties that we've had in trying to entice people to the property and some of the issues with the amount of investment that would be required to make it viable and make it work. And I see that the biggest element for our area in my town is the potential to have something that people can be attracted to by Plymouth, helping to increase our tax base with low impact to the town as far as services and other things are required. And I think it would be a wonderful thing to see this happen for all of us.
okay. So the market opportunity here in our mind is, I mean, what we obviously is targeting entertainment dollars. We luckily live in an area that's fairly affluent. We believe in the market dynamic that we're pointing out to. We have a marketplace of roughly $44 billion that gets spent within this marketplace for entertainment. Average family, $2,600 per year. And most of them are looking for things that within a day trip, which this particular opportunity has for it. I believe, again, there's 4 venues. I mean, we want to make us, you know, with support of the town, what we're trying to accomplish is a 4-season venue. I mean, you have some great bones here. You've got the university. I said university, Bob. The university. I always say state college. I think get chastised for it.
Good reason.
With the university, you have 4,800 students here. I mean, they themselves are their own microcosm of a market. People in Boston are looking to, especially seasons like this, they're looking to get outside, do something, and get stuff to walls from talking to them, especially prolonged winters. You're an hour and a half from Boston. You know, you're an hour plus to Portsmouth, Portland. So you mean we can draw people up into this region. Obviously, summer is easy. I mean, White Mountains are their own venue. I don't think we'll have too much trouble driving them up here. In the fall, we're looking to do something similar to what Keene does. Obviously not the Pumpkin Fest, but something to that extent to drive people up here for the leaf peeping season and all that stuff. You got great views coming up the highway. And And of course, in the winter, it's easy to get them up here to go ski. Our plan on most of these venues is to make sure that we're cost effective. Skiing, we're trying to keep in the $40 a day range for adults. Probably for college students, we're going to be something in the $20, $25 range. We're going to open that up to not only Plymouth University and the other colleges, but the entire New England chain. So we're trying to drive those 275,000 students that live in Boston up into this region for day trips. We think we can be very successful with that. We'll have the typical things, the zip lines and the climbing ropes and all that good stuff. We are talking about a water feature. We want something, not so much as a water slide, but more of a Whitewater Park. Bob, you can expand on that a little bit, what your thoughts are on Whitewater Park.
Well, I worked on Deep Creek Mountain. It's in westernmost Virginia, and they had the 04 Olympic trials there, whitewater kayaking. We've taken that experience and tried to develop both a whitewater track and a lazy river element, so you'd have an upper basin and a lower basin, upper basin. And it requires about 35 acres. It's not inexpensive. It's probably a $30 million undertaking. But that is what we see as our summertime anchor. Since we don't have a lake, we're trying to create a small lake with a lot of activity. And
well, we're also going to create a lake on the property as well.
For snowmaking. And water management is going to be a key issue to any successful plan, obviously, on the side of a mountain. We've got to have great sensitivity to the topographic features of the site. We want to keep as many good tree stands as possible so that the impact of development is lessened, maximize value, minimize impacts. But overall, have a overall resort feel that's linked, connected, and is unlike anything in southern New England.
The rest of the next few pictures are just kind of different events. One of the ski things that we are looking at is, Plymouth University has a fairly active ski program. We are looking to add one trail and a snowboarding venue. You're standing in front of the mountain off to the right. That would be sort of Olympic class. The whole thought process there is to try to get some of those events up here. Get drive population up here. So we have the land, and it's on that part of the slope. It's got fairly decent elevation, so we want to go up into that piece and basically give a dedicated trail to the university. That's what you want with it. Get the Olympic guys to show up, So our first phase here is, what we're trying to do is reestablish the marketplace that Tenny's actually here to stay. It's had a long history of failure, unfortunately. It's going to take us roughly 3 years to put that mountain back together. We're not planning on turning it back on until year 3. We've got to put in a new lift, we've got to put in updated trails, we've got to fix the existing clubhouse, lodge. Our plan is to also extend the venue down closer to the road, so we have parking coming in and not going up through that area to get there. That's, so basically, we're going to probably be investing in between $4 and $5 million just to turn the thing back on. We believe that the overall investment in the mountain is going to be something approaching $25 to $30 million over the life of the project. Our anticipation is we're going to be spending about $2 million annually in upgrades. And the whole point of that is to keep people interested. If you go ahead and jam it all in at once, they get bored. If you do a little bit every time, it drives them up to see the next thing. We don't expect that Tenny's ever going to be something that's going to be generating 400,000 visits a year. I think we'd be very happy if we can get up around 200. That'd be our initial goal. I'd love to be wrong, but we'll start small and grow into the thing. Our target audience, obviously, empty nesters, startup families. We have 4 types of housing element on the project. We have a workforce housing element. That's probably the biggest piece of the development. It's roughly 350 residential units, 8,000 to 9,000 square foot lots, Pricing of those will be between $175 and $215. Housing stock in the 1,400 to 1,500 square foot, with 2-car garages and a little better than what's been built up there by others, we hope. The second phase would be an entry-level condominium or multifamily component. It's going to be sort of a mix. It's going to be targeted at 2 people, again, workforce and elderly. People that want to stay in this region have kind of been caught in their own homes, there is no other product, so that they can at least stay in the community, be in a little bit of a village, and be around people, so everyone else is kind of watching over them, making sure that they're being taken care of. We'll have a third component, which would be ski in, ski out. Those, again, will be condominiums. They're going to be on the lower left-hand side of the site. We're also going to bring a lift down into that region, upgrade the lift that's kind of there now, reposition it somewhere in that neighborhood. And then we've got a luxury component that's going to be built around the 15 to 18 acre lake we're going to build for snowmaking. Snowmaking right now isn't sufficient at all for what's there. We've done our calcs, and we believe that he's going to need at least about an 18 acre lake to be able to do a Class A snowmaking operation. We will then build housing around the waterfront edge of that. We're planning on putting up 2 beach clubs, one being for one element and then one being for another. So, at least enough so people can go get wet during the summertime. The whole point of this is to build confidence back up that Tenny's actually here to exist, and then the value will come in after that. Again, Bob's right, it's probably going to be a 15 to 20 year build out. And we believe that the average sale or units sold and delivered each year are going to be something around 50. I don't think it's going to be much bigger than that, unless Woody's a miracle worker and can do something better.
I hope.
Woody, what do you think about that sales target? Honestly, you're in real estate.
Honestly, I think that's it's all going to depend on the amount of the amenity that's in, because unless that's there and the mountain's secure and people have confidence that they're coming to something of value, that we're not going to get those numbers. But we have had years there where we were doing building and development where we saw those kinds of numbers. So I think it's possible.
Do you think it's more important to have the infrastructure there and the mountain open before there's any saleable real estate?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you can't do it without it. You got to have that first. Because people won't have confidence that they're investing into something unless those improvements are in place.
Which product are you talking about? Entry level for sale?
Oh, no, not the entry level stuff, but I mean, to get to those kinds of numbers for 50 sales a year.
Well, I mean, we're not hitting 50 sales until start year 3.
Right.
For year 1, we'll probably get 10. I mean, year 2, and again, we're only talking about the entry level product, not even offering the move up or the condo or the multifamily product until the mountains turn back on.
I'd like to just interject here for just some history for you, Armand, is that, there have been meetings with the Whipple folks and Woody and myself and Sarah Jane Steen and Steve Barba, and, there's the university and the town have been in discussion about the target audience and, what's the housing market, what's needed locally. And one of the things that's come up is that, the university finds that a lot of alumni want to come back to this area. They've retired. This is where they want to live. We've had discussions with the hospitals and, the electric co-op, where people who are moving here, young professionals getting started in careers, can't find housing that's appropriate. And so this, I think that there's been a lot of thought put into the way they're, planning the whole phases of the target audiences.
If you go to your next page, it kind of speaks to your concern. Phase 2 is exactly what you just stated. You got to reestablish the goodwill. Got to get the college community involved. You got to restart Tenny Mountain. With improved slopes, snowmaking, night skiing, attract the college students to come up. You got to get an audience out there. Without an audience, we're never going to sell luxury, or we're never going to sell move up, or we're never going to sell seasonal. We're not going to do any of those things. We'll build a lot of entry-level homes, and the rest of them out will sit there and languish. So we agree that by year 3, And the reason we think it's gonna take year 3, if I ordered the equipment tomorrow, if I ordered the lift tomorrow, I'm not gonna see the thing for 14 months. So, you know, but we have a lot of work to do before that. We've gotta re-engineer the entire mountain. And understand for what do we want it to be 3 years from now, we want it to be 20 years from now. So it's meant to be a growth strategy that it's measurable and you can see impact with everything we do. Otherwise, we're just gonna be like everybody else. We're just gonna go up and die, and that's not the plan.
You don't get to the next phase.
And then we really want to target retail opportunities, and part of this program is roughly 300,000 square feet of retail that are it's sort of in a village, not a big box store situation, but in a village format, that we have small venues in the 2,500 to 10,000 square foot venue, sort of a premium outlet type situation. We have Montreal to the north of us. They love to come down here and shop because they can beat the taxes. And we're going to entice them to come down here and shop. But we also are looking for a venue that's an EMS, a North Face, a LL Bean type establishment that will take an anchor position in this property. We're going to give them naming rights to Tenny. It's going to be so-and-so at Tenny Mountain. I don't care which one it is, as long as they put their name on to get here. And then we're going to require them to take between a 20 and 30,000 square foot prime position in this thing. And we want the schools that they have. EMS has, I think, 20 schools where you can go do all kinds of little things and drive up here. And you have great bones there. You have the cliff climbing. You've got the cross-country skiing, snowshoeing, biking, anything you want. It's all right there. We just need to make sure that the venue's there for them to play with. So that's kind of step number 3 for us, is get that sports retail organization in place. We're in a process with some of the larger retail realtors down in the Boston region, so we've already started those conversations. Like, all right, how am I going to get you up here, and what do I got to do to entice you to come up here? So the whole strength of this program is that we're picking fruit off many trees. There's not one that makes it all succeed. It's like, all right, well, we're going to make a little money on this one, and a little money on that one, and a little money on this one, but when you finally put them all together, you got something to work with. This program cannot sustain on just one product type. It just won't make it. 3, again, continue the enhancement of the mountain amenity, retail expansion. Then we start finally the move up and the luxury marketing. We feel the mountain's gonna have to be turned on for at least a year and a half to try to get people to, come up here, try it, like it, and then want to make a purchase. At that point, once we get those programs started, we're going to establish a hotel up there, probably in 2 phases. Phase 1 will probably be 90 units, phase 2 will be 90 units, and we're also going to incorporate the base lodge in that mountain hotel. And we're still in the process of trying to figure out what kind of conference size that we need. We've been telling me between 200 and 300 person venue, so I'm still trying to get my arms wrapped around that one. The focus here is going to be family-oriented. If you want to be an extreme skier, then I'm going to ask you to go to Cannon or someplace else. This is going to be, a lot of entry-level, intermediate, and yeah, there will be black diamond stuff up there, as there is now, but it's not going to be the driver. It's just, we want the families, and they make more money in families than the extreme skiers, so I want the families come up. I'll give you an example. Wachusett Mountain makes $1 million a year selling French fries. Good, great. So you all the French fries you want. Ski businesses, they make more money selling hamburgers and beer than they're ever going to make them going up and down the ski slope. So I'm fine with that. Step 4, we complete the residential development, the retail build out. Second phase of the hotel. That's when we kind of really dig into the condominium community. And then we just continue the upgrade in the mountains. Again, our anticipation is this thing is going to be a $2 million investment forever. I just don't ever see us not spending $2 million. I've tried it 5 times a Sunday and say, when do you graduate? You don't. You just keep putting $2 million into the thing forever. There's really no real plan there. So what do you get out of the whole process from the town plan? I guess that's in our thought process, if we do this thing in 15 years, our plan is to build 620 residential homes up there, 125 multifamily units, 150 condos, units that are sort of has assisted living component. Not quite sure what that means yet. It will be a 180-room hotel, 330,000 square feet of retail development, new base, amenity facility, and ski mountain. Conservatively, we believe that we'll produce over 350 construction jobs during the build-out of this opportunity. There'll be 900 retail full and part-time jobs, of which probably 300 of them will be full-time. Tenny Mountain will have 100 jobs. We believe 50 of them will be full-time, 50 of them will be part-time. If you look at the impact of that employment, it adds roughly $27 million a year into compensation, into the just wages, nothing else. And if what that does to the overall community, it adds about $166 million worth of economic activity to the region. Most economists will tell you to multiply that by 7. I multiply it 6. I don't believe the economists, but that's just my opinion. Overall, over the life of this project, we believe it's roughly about a $2 billion investment in the community area. So it's not, you know, I shouldn't say it's a slow growth, but it's a monitored growth over the period. So there's no really large impacts that we see. We believe that most of the people that will move up in this region, especially the bigger elements, are going to be seasonal people, snowbirds, people whose children have already moved past these school age years. 350 entry-level units will probably be your biggest impact. And you know, roughly, if I look at the state averages, that's about 0.8 of a child per house. Now, I don't know if your school is growing or not growing in this region, but widgets are widgets, and you still need students. So I'm not sure what your demographic looks like there. Is your school growing now? Is it flat or a bit declining?
Slightly down.
I'm sorry?
Slightly down.
So one of the things on the mountain, and then we'll now, if you want to go to the next tab, we'll talk about Plymouth Valley Water and Sewer, is in our conversations with the state and locally is the Plymouth Valley needs a secondary water source. It spent roughly $400,000 not finding one. We have one that sits underneath this mountain. It has a well in it right now that generates 450 gallons per minute, which works out to a couple million gallons of water a year. We don't need all that water. There's a whole infrastructure in there that exists today. And in our conversations, what we wanted to do with Plymouth Valley Water and Sewer, say, okay guys, you buy the infrastructure and the well from us. We become customers. And not only will we sell it to you, but we'll float it over a bond. And basically, you pay us just interest only on the bond until year 20, and then we'll give us a balloon payment. A couple things happen there. One, we actually have to do what we say we're going to do, because if it doesn't happen, well, hey, don't pay us. And we own the infrastructure for the first 3 years, so we'll fix anything within the mountain that happens. And we'll also upgrade anything that's wrong with the mountain today, meaning the tanks, the wells, the pipes, whatever it is. And when our engineers sign it off, we're going to use McFarland, who's out in Concord. Then, at that point, you take ownership of the system. We also are going to tap from where the water ends now to where it's going to end up over by Tenny Mountain Highway. It's roughly a mile plus of water line that we have to put in. I believe that's going to be about $1.3 million. That's on us. We'll go ahead and tie that together as well. The only thing we're asking Plymouth Valley Water and Sewer to help us with is if we need any easements. You guys have the ability of eminent domain. We do not. You know, so if I get a neighbor that's really being difficult, I need some help. At that point, like I stated, we become customers, and then the page behind this will kind of talk about the economics. All the water and sewer that goes into the mountain for the infrastructure for the existing homes or the new ones to be built, that's on us. So you're picking up all that water infrastructure as we finish it up and turn it over to you. We are going to pay you some $3.52 million worth of tie-in fees. What we're going to ask during that purchase is to build out the entire mountain edge. We need about another 80,000 gallons per day of sewer capacity. You've got roughly 400,000 gallons of capacity that you're not using today. We have a-
Just to correct it, it's not us who has it, it's the Plymouth Village
Well,
Water and Sewer
this town,
District.
I'm going to use the town as a broad term.
Well, it's very important to distinguish, though, to keep
All right,
that
Plymouth Valley
distinct.
Water and Sewer has, 400,000 additional gallons. So in that 3.25 million, in those tie-in fees, we're gonna be asking for extended capacity. At the end of the day, with all the retail, all the residential homes and everything else that's going to be added to this program, over a 15-year period of term, we're basically gonna generate about $26.9 million of revenue to Plymouth Valley Water and Sewer from the usages, and we can go over that next page. And we're going to put about $20 million worth of water infrastructure in the ground, and sewer infrastructure in the ground that will be their asset when we're done. Net dollars, after paying us for it after 20 years, they net out about $17 million. So we then looked at what it would cost Plymouth Valley Water and Sewer if they went out on their own to try to build the same system. Fred Mock from McFarland, I sat down with him and we went over, because McFarland Associates has done most of the engineering on Tenny Mountain, so very aware of what the well is, and what the program is, and how to get there from here. So if Plymouth Valley Water and Sewers had to perform this on their own, it would cost them roughly $5.2 million, not including the $400,000 they've already spent to date. And what we're saying is about $5.95 million is what we're trying to say we want to be paid for it. Option one, if you were to take a 15-term bond, it would cost Plymouth Valley Water and Sewer $35,000 a month. In our program, we're at $38,000 a month, so it's roughly a $3,700 a month variance between the 2 points. Again, what we're offering in our program is they're offering not only that, but it's also our program is a job generator, so we have other benefits that tie back into that program as well. Go to the next page. Basically, this is the spreadsheet that kind of tells you how it all gets paid for. Right now, you've got roughly 150 residents up there now. Just charging a regular water bill, which is average in Plymouth Valley Water, so it's roughly $345 a year. Roughly $41,000 worth of water revenue that you'd get off of that. In year one, again, thus building 10 houses, we would give you $3,700 to $37,000 in tie-in fees, and our water usage, or the people who are buying the homes, their water usage would be roughly $3,400 and $3,500 for lack of a better term. Therefore, from a negative, Plymouth Valley Water and Sewer would experience a negative event in regard to hitting its balance sheet for that particular year. Year two, when we built 35 homes, and what I've done with the numbers is I've put a 3% escalator on all of these, because not knowing, I'm assuming your numbers go up every year like everybody else's does. We would pay $129,000 in tie-in fees, generate roughly $15,000 in water usage between year one and year two. Again, I'm adding, every year I just add the cumulative effect. And Plymouth Valley Water and Sewer would experience a $39,000 loss. Year three, it goes positive. And it stays positive until year 20. And by the time you get to year 19, the positive effect of Plymouth Valley Water is roughly $1.7 million a year. Given the fact that if you still need this water source, this growth didn't happen, you'd be looking at losses every year, and their existing ratepayers would have to pick that up. Now, what this also offers you is, because our tanks are higher than your tanks, Plymouth Valley Water and Sewer tanks, you can expand your existing base as well. I mean, I'm sure there are people in the city who love water but can't get it. And when we extend that 1.3 miles of water line, you can have people tied in along that edge as well. So there's enough capacity to take more people in. So that's not figured into these numbers, because I have absolutely no idea how many people take up on it. And it would also help your commercial corridor on Tenny Valley Highway, Tenny Mountain Highway, to offer them more water as well. So what does it do for the town? Tax revenue. Well, they talked to you about that. This is your part of the camp, right? So over the life of the project, I mean, the entire venue of what the value anticipated for the mountain is roughly $310 million worth of additional asset. Will generate roughly $68,221,000 worth of additional revenue over 15 years. I didn't travel this one out all the way to 20. Or roughly $4.5 million a year in additional revenue if I'm just taking a weighted average. Given the fact that Tenny Mountain is going to be an HOA situation, she doesn't own any responsibility for the roads and infrastructure. So, from your perspective, it's cash. Going to see kind of what that does to you year to year. Please flip to the next page. And this kind of just shows you how your tax base will escalate year by year. To roughly year 15, I believe it is. Yes. So again, it's the same model, same amount of houses being built each year. Taking your today's tax rate. I put an escalator in your tax rate of 2.5%. And I don't know what you guys go up every year, but I'm assuming it's something similar to that.
Zero.
Zero, you never go up ever?
We don't go there.
We try not to go up, almost certainly.
All right, we'll go flat, that's good. I'll have to keep that in mind. So I can complain about it later. Hey!
I said we
You
try.
told me you would never move it.
I said we try.
It's on record. Take this, I want to tape. So in this venue, I just said, okay, you know, what does it do on the residential side? What does it do on the commercial side? You can see the growth. It just kind of continues on. And by the time you get to the end, it's a fairly sizable number. Again, what's the dollar worth 20, 15 years from now? I don't know, but assume it's not too badly beat up. From there. Just trying to give you a sense of kind of where this revenue curve can go. Now, not knowing how fast Plymouth is growing today, looking at this housing stock ad, it's about 2.5% for what you guys currently have. So kind of where we see the growth. Is that anything close to what you get now? There 50 new homes a year that are built in Plymouth? No?
Well, recently they haven't been that long.
During the good times? Or the
Oh, yeah.
All right, so the overall benefit, again, is just as a recap, I mean, again, the jobs, getting Tenny Mountain put back online again, adding some affordable workforce housing in the region, being amenity of both the Plymouth University and the town as a whole, tax benefit and water benefit. That's kind of where we are with our program. So what I was asked through our meetings is like, okay, so this is how we lay it out. Trying to get a sense of how we could work with the Plymouth, town of Plymouth and the Plymouth Valley Water and Sewer Department, trying to get this to happen. Kind of what my questions are today. What steps do you think we could take to get this to occur? And what do you think our hindrances are?
Well,
Good questions.
from the town's perspective, you know, we would love nothing more than to see this entire plan come to fruition. I'm sure the planning board would be happy to have something that would get such incredibly, I think it would get a lot of community support. And it would be the planning board and potentially the zoning board that you'd be going through for actual approval of it. I, again, cannot speak for Plymouth Village Water and Sewer District. They are a separate entity.
And we'll continue our conversations with them.
We would have liked to have had representatives from the district at this presentation tonight, and unfortunately they've had a emergency take place.
Yeah, you got the email.
So they're otherwise occupied, but does anyone have anything to ask or any questions for?
Are you familiar with the development at J Peak?
Yes, we were very familiar with the development at J Peak. What would you like to know about it?
Well, they have unique financing.
Yeah, the EB5 program is a two-edged sword. You know, it's If you hit your targets, great. If you don't hit your targets, you have an international situation on your hand. This gentleman's got a big position in that. You know, I hope he's successful, you know, and it's something we've looked at. We actually have a regional center down in the Boston area. The money has gotten a little bit more tentative because it got in there early, some of it, and got burned on a lot of opportunities. So the whole program has slowed down greatly. The Canadian program is a much stronger program. It's sovereign backed. It's also half the money of the American one. So it's easy to buy citizenship up there at half the dollars of what we're asking you to do, and you're backed by the government. So a lot of that money has gone north.
Really?
I have something to add. Tonight we've talked about a lot of great positive things, not only for the town, the citizens, but for your company as well. Revenue generator, of course, it's typically always about money. You said you've had a lot of experience when you were first talking about doing things like this in communities, towns, etc. I don't want to be negative, but of course, when you have a project, the scope of what you're describing here, there will be detrimental aspects potentially. Hopefully not, but there potentially would be. And this size project would put quite a strain on the services that the town provides in terms of fire protection, police protection, roads, maintenance, all those sorts of things. Service-oriented departments that we have, and all of a sudden we'll have this many more people in the town of Plymouth. We need to obviously accommodate for that in terms of budgeting.
Well, we think we are doing that. We are doing that by providing you the additional tax generation of the real estate. I mean, it's not, you're not giving me anything. I'm not going to provide any more burden than the people you already have here.
Right.
And I'm actually going to give you more of a generation because my house is going to be worth more than the ones you currently have in your stock. So, if anything, from my perspective, I'm giving you more money for the same level of service as your existing tenant base, but I'm providing you more dollars for it. And once we put the commercial component in, there's no way you're going to make the argument that I'm providing more detriment to services when the largest part of our program is the mountain and the commercial base. They're going to give you money, and then they're going to ask you for anything. But if you're going to tell me you're going to give me a rebate, I'm listening. Go ahead.
Of course you'd listen to that. Yes.
I presume that was where you're going. So, yeah, that's the whole point of this multi approach. You're not just taking it all in housing. I grant you, housing does have the largest impact to communities. But you can't have any type of economic growth without good housing stock. That's why the Southeast is eating our lunch up here in the North right now. I can provide a beautiful home, and we're doing a similar side project in Georgetown, South Carolina. I can provide you a beautiful home for $150,000. I can't give you a doghouse up here. And some of that's government intrusion. Some of that is the cost of this construction up here. You know, some of it's just takes more to do more here. That's just the way it is. A high barrier of entry market. So it does have its own problems. What you're not experiencing that they're experiencing down there is the revenue growth and the economic growth. I mean, I'll give you Georgetown as an example. They've experienced $2 billion worth of economic growth, one town, in the last 2 years. Because money goes where money can get a return. And, you know, we've lost 3 gun manufacturers in this region alone. 2 from Connecticut, 1 from New York, and they've just moved into Georgetown. And with it, 400 jobs went with them. So you can take the position that, yes, we're providing cost, but if you don't grow, if you tell me that your costs are fixed, and you pay the same money for insurance and lights and power every year, and you can do it on the same fixed number of people, I will tell you you're wrong. You know, and that's what I see the differences between my history. Is I've spent 30 years working for national developers, Toll Brothers, Lincoln Property Company, JPI, Equity Residential. I've been from here to San Diego and from Chicago to Miami. And the areas that have high growth look at housing stock as a benefit, not a detriment. Because if you don't provide the housing, the employees do not come. Because it's the first question I get asked every place. How much is a house? And how much am I gonna have to pay a person to work and live here? And we are just happen to be one of the most expensive places in the United States to do that. So, New Hampshire's been benefited where you get the lowest unemployment rate in the chain. Congratulations, by the way. But you've always been a pro-business environment. Massachusetts, where I come from, not so much. So, in Connecticut, it's worse. New York's even worse than that. So, we're lucky we're number 49, the worst place to do business, being Massachusetts. And New York's number 50. So, I don't think you want to climb that particular ladder. The other way is to go down. So, granted, yeah, there are costs, but there's costs of doing nothing.
Absolutely.
I mean, if you think your revenue's growing faster than your costs, then you don't need me. I can go home.
Definitely don't want.
Paul, you had a question?
I'm just recommending that with a project of this magnitude coming before the town as a whole, including a private entity, I think you're looking at where you would want to have a 4-board meeting, one of them being a private entity, the water department.
Say that again, what?
4 boards get together.
Oh.
Select board, planning board, board of select, ZBA,
So,
and,
Water and sewer.
planning board. And I would say out of that board, I would hope then a subcommittee would come out of it with members from each one, but to at least get everybody on the same page so that you're not going back and forth and then you're doing pretty good in this board and then you're not doing so good at the ZBA level.
It's a good
And then
suggestion.
you're going back to a private entity and then you're coming back to a public municipality again, to get everybody sitting at the table, list all the drawbacks, list all the positives, come up with your matrix, form the subcommittee made up of board members from each board, start working on a matrix, and start doing the math. And I think it sounds burdensome, but I think in the long run, it will be quicker than trying to hit each individual boards when they can meet. I think that would put you already 3 months out.
Well, that's this thing. I mean, the problem here that we're establishing on our side at this point, I mean, right now, this mountain is unfinanceable. It doesn't appraise out for anything. So if you go to a bank and say, yeah, I want to go ahead and do this exercise, they just say, fine, do it in cash. That's when I can let you bang.
And that's what I'm saying, all boards talk in different languages, and you've got to get everybody speaking in the same language. Everybody needs to know what's in it for them, and they need to be able to present what impacts they feel or they see. Another board may say that the impacts that you're picking up or losing over here, we'll be able to pick up and more than make up for it in revenue over here, and they're going to recognize those facts. Or it's just going to be, it might be overwhelming if you just hit one board at a time.
We've already experienced a little bit of that. Time is our enemy here. We have a seller who actually has no tolerance left for this mountain. And it's like, okay, guys, so we've got 2 questions asked here. Work with a group that wants to sit here and try to add value, or you're going to end up with the lowest possible buyer of this mountain, and it's going to just become whatever it becomes. So urgency is somewhat of a problem on our side with dealing with the town, trying to move this thing forward in an expedient way. And we've, not to say we've hit any resistance, because I can't say we've done that. It's been trying to figure out the labyrinth. Say, well, when we talking to them, what do they do? And so if you could establish that board on a timely basis, that'd be great. So from this conversation, if you guys could get back to me with thought of time, then I can go have my conversations behind this thing. Say, okay, we're going to go meet with this committee and get a little bit more creative in getting this thing accomplished. And you're right, there's going to be a lot of questions. All I'm showing you is a bunch of paper today, and I get that. I mean, it's a big decision to make, and it's a large project in a mountain that's sort of had its issues, So I'm sure you want to make the right step and move in the right direction and get this thing accomplished.
So you've been working on this for 3 years.
Yeah, mostly with dealing with the seller, yeah.
And the project that was presented before the Water and Sewer District was, far less, meat than what you just provided us tonight. Now, how real is this project, in your perspective, and is it like a boots on the ground type of project, or Are we at that point, or
Boots on your, well, it's not a boots on your ground type of project, because we still have to go through the approval process, so.
yeah?
Unless you can tell me I'm all set tonight and then go to work, sure.
If I do, it wouldn't amount to much, but yeah, you're approved, go for it. But I'm singular and she's the chair, so.
Well, no, that's my point. I mean, so it's a project that's going to need 8 months of permitting. I mean, we're not gonna expect it to be, we get DEP you have to go through, I mean, we're gonna build a pond and.
We've been working on financing, you said, admitted.
Financing we have. We have partners that wanna do this. We have a program. They just need to see it backed up by something else. You know, they're looking for some community skin in the game, for lack of a better term. I'm gonna use that as an example. I've tried to make that as painless as I can on my side, saying, well, look, any public entity's not gonna go ahead and underwrite some private entity, guys. But if we can sell you something you need, well, then that's a different story, you know? So that's kind of what we're offering you today. All right, you need water, we got water. I don't need the water, and I don't want to be in the water business. I'm happy to put the infrastructure in, I'm happy to pay for the water, and I'm happy to do a lot of things, but I don't want to own it. Happy to turn the thing over. All I wanted out of this whole exercise is enough water that we can maintain our snow-making operation, which we think is probably about 10 million gallons a year. That's going to fill our ponds. We get real creative, maybe bottle some water and give it away to the skiers. I don't know. And it's not really that big of an agenda on my side. So
can I have a French fry thing?
You can have French fry, yeah.
Okay.
Free French fries.
Free French fries.
So, if I might add, I think your point is a very good point. I learned a long time ago that I'm not in the design business, that I'm in the communication business. And that's what really you're talking about, is having a communication strategy that's workable, that is consistent and provides that level of certainty. And we can definitely do that in a short period of time.
And so to answer you go back to your question, we've got the investors that want to do this program. We've gone through all those conversations. The question is how, who, and what. And it's really on your side of the table, guys. It's not mine. I mean, I can get through the permitting piece. We've got the engineers lined up, and we kind of know the process. Okay. What do you want to do about the water? You know, it's a big deal for us to do something with it.
Does this whole project really hinge on that, on Plymouth Village Water and Sewer District?
Yes.
So, I mean, they're the first ones that have to get to the table and agree to it because.
Well, I mean, in all fairness to Plymouth Valley and Water Sewer, you know.
Village.
I've told them already.
I know, Jesus, I don't know why I keep doing that. You know, I grew up in Pennsylvania, we got family in Pennsylvania, we live in valleys. You know, so everything's a valley in Pennsylvania. Village is not a word we even know. Yeah, so I keep saying valley out of history. But in defense of them, I mean, yes, it's hinging upon them, but, you know, as we've said to the state to a degree, it's like, look, you can't ask this poor board of 3 or 4 members who volunteer to take all the economic risk of this thing. So someone has to back them up, you know, meaning the select board, yes, we like it too. And Department of Regional Economic Development, yeah, we like it too. And the Governor's Council, no, yeah, we like it too. And we have a letter from Jean Forrest, we can give you a copy of that. She's backed the thing and she likes the idea too. But it has to be a collective program with that. So if the thing goes sideways, let's say, these poor 3 people don't get skewered. You know, and I understand that concern. We're talking about a $300 million construction program with people who may not, who have or not have that type of experience level.
Right.
And I walk in the room and I'm sure I'm scaring them to death, right? So I get that. So the whole point of this conversation today is from a town point of view. Again, you want the growth and we want to get the growth. And yes, we're going to make money at it too. So it's the, you know, how do we do it? It's, again, maybe I've always come in my history of, again, working with the Nationals, I always come into projects when they're completely broken. Not to say this is broken, but, you know, so I end up getting a lot of frustration on your side of the table that directs at me. And I've learned over time, look, I'm a visitor here, guys. I'm not from Plymouth. I don't live here. I won't live here. Although it's not like, dudes like coming up here. It's a nice ride. And versus just sitting in traffic in Boston, by the way. But I'm a visitor. I'm going to be here for 20 years and I'm going to leave. I want to make sure that what we've left here is something that's a benefit to the community, not some mess that we've left on your doorstep. And that's been the history of the things that we've done. We hire the best and the brightest, because I'm not the best or the brightest. I just bring people who are, and say, okay, what's the right answer here? And you all live here, so you've got more skin in the game than I'm ever going to have. So
Mike?
here's a pencil. Tell me what to do.
Well, I was just gonna say, I think, you used the word skewered, that those three folks over at Water and Sewer don't want to be the ones left holding the bag if something, doesn't work out. And I think that's it seems to me like that's the key to this thing, is that, the level of risk to Water and Sewer and to Water and Sewer's customers. So I think they need to be, I can't speak for them, but I would guess that they need to be assured that, they need to know that the customers of Water and Sewer aren't going to, suddenly see a doubling in their water and sewer bills when you guys leave town because the thing didn't work.
Well,
At the risk of being,
Well, let me ask a question. If you need another water source, and we've proven to you that if we don't come here at all, you still need another water source.
that's certainly a factor, I understand that,
You're going to spend $5.2 million today.
Yeah.
So who's paying for that if we're not here?
Yeah, I'm not saying it's bad, I'm just saying,
Well, no,
I
I'm
think
just-
that's
Their
the math
concern.
they're working through, is how does this play out in the worst case scenario, which is we sign a note with you for $5 or $6 million, and, you build 20 houses and the thing doesn't work out and you disappear.
Well, then
Something like that, I mean.
So we tie the thing to its level of success. If we're not making the milestones, then they'll pass.
Well, I think that's maybe where this, this group could do some good, is that negotiation has to take into account, the downside as well as the upside.
All right, so we have
And
we have
I love seeing the upside, but we all have to be concerned about the downside, because we've only got, I don't know, 5,000 or 6,000 people here.
Well, I understand it, but you've got a downside, and again, doing nothing is a downside for you.
No, I understand, I'm not,
So that's, in fact, the downside of doing nothing is worse than the downside of doing this.
that argument can be made, I understand, because you can say, well, you need to spend this $5 million anyway.
You do.
And you're not gonna get anything for it except another one. I understand where you're coming from on that, absolutely. I don't know enough about the obligation or the cost of a well, other than what you've told us, but.
Again, we could have our engineer give you, or you can get your own independent one. I mean, we use McFarland, again, he's not our engineer, we haven't hired him for anything. He was the person that did all the work up there, so Bob was gracious enough to give me Fred Mock's telephone number. I said, all right, Fred, if, you're from here, you live in Concord. If I had to go ahead and do this up here, not understanding all the construction costs of, New Hampshire as much as I do south of here, I said, well, give me these weren't my numbers, these were his. I said, how much? No idea. So I asked him to do me a cost estimate. And
I understand. I do see it as being a fairly complex relationship, that's gonna go on for
Ever.
20 years or so,
That's what I know about the communication.
Right, well, and that's true.
It's a partnership. I mean,
it
there's
has
no other
to-
way around it.
At the end of the day, what we're going to be asking for you is to, not so much economically partner with us, but you're going to partner with us because we're going to be a big part of your life. And you're going to be a big part of ours. When we talk about this thing being a 4-season event, well, guys, I need you to help me downtown too. Meaning that if I'm doing a fair up there, you need to be doing a fair down here, and not to say we won't economically participate in that, because we will, but it's, I need to draw people, the best way I can explain it is like Disneyland. If anybody's ever been there, you get the boat ride, and you show up and they hit the corner and boom, you see the thing, right? That's kind of the same situation here. You come off the highway and all of a sudden Plymouth opens up in front of you and it's an enticing, inviting environment. Well, that has to happen as you drive up this road, not when you get to my entrance. You have to get a buy-in from the get-go, and that's what we've been strong at, is the feeling of entry. Bob did a great, my son goes to Westfield State up in New Hampshire, in Massachusetts, and they had a terrible downtown. It was a dump. And the first year we went up there, they said, God, this is terrible. Unbeknownst to me, Bob had designed a downtown square program, and it was $5 million or whatever they stunk down there.
It was a lot more than that.
Yeah, but you go down there today and it's beautiful. Mm-hmm. And it's nothing more than they did a beautiful park. Now what's moved in there since then? 4 more restaurants. Mm-hmm. They created a parking and an element of arrival. And people come in. What's the same thing we're talking about here?
It's a framework. It's a growth strategy that everybody's got to be on the same page, and it's a framework that's not rocket science, that you can understand, that's predictable, so each phase gets you to the next phase.
And you're going to be involved in that conversation, because we need
Have
to.
to.
You have to be. You're the end user of our product, right? I mean, if we have retail, it has to have the 5,000 people that exist here visit the place too. I mean, so there are going to be multiple conversations. You're going to find us to be fairly fluid because, like I said, I'm not from here. So what I think might be the right answer, you're dead wrong. You know, and I'm looking for that input because I need it. You know, 'cause you understand from your thought process of what this community is supposed to be. It's probably, cannot be all economically driven. I've seen plenty of those failures. You know, where we come in and say, well, yeah, great, you built this thing, and who's coming?
And I'd like to just, not to interrupt you, but to interrupt you and say that, you know, I think that probably the wisest course of action, rather than, you know, really beating a dead horse at this point, is to come up with a time where we can get the 4-board meeting together.
Okay.
And sit down and get back to you and talk about it, because I think that is, the communication is how we're going to accomplish, you know, get moving in the right direction, instead of saying, well, let's see what these guys have to say.
Do we have a 91A issue or something like that? How does that?
At this point? Or-
No, I mean, if we're going to have a committee that meets.
Oh, it has to be posted, I'm sorry.
Yeah, we'll
be
post it.
posted.
It has to be
Public.
posted.
So it'd be,
Yeah.
okay, I understand.
That many boards coming together. It's,
It's a great idea, Paul.
Yeah.
Yeah, the only thing we would like to see on our side is, you know, what we've done with other communities is, you know, through the administrators, not the board members. And sometimes we just create working sessions with those, and they get put in the open board, because it list keeps the process moving. Because there'll be lots of good ideas, and we have to funnel all that information into you. And then we can talk to about an open forum. I'm not having any issues with that. But there is a lot of, you'd be amazed by the amount of paper that these things create.
You should figure every use that goes out on the mountain has got to complement what is happening in the town. And if you don't do that, then you've got a real problem. So if the plan for the mountain evolves along a complementary and collaborative fashion with the downtown, then it's a win-win. And that's part of the ground rules going forward. It's got to do that to be successful.
And best example,
The market's small.
Right, I'll give you the best example. Worcester, Massachusetts, in 1972, built an inner-city mall. Within 6 months, because of that mall opening up, they put every business on Main Street out of business. Every one. You know, and it was a complete detriment to the entire, it hollowed out the core of the city. And it's still, to this day, is now starting to recover. That is a little bit of our concern with this, in this community here. It's like, okay, we can't put in competing businesses that exist here. You know, it's like, okay, I can't open up a, you know, bookstore in that one because they won't come to this one. And you gotta kind of balance.
We lost our bookstore.
Well, you could open a bookstore.
I was gone, at least it would be a bookstore, you know, whatever, you know, but I mean, the point is, you gotta really focus in and say, okay, we can't compete about certain things, because we'll just drive them out of business. Because it's always easier for them to drive up to the big place with a car than to come down to the little place and get out of the car and walk around. So we gotta be very balanced about the approach of this thing, because 300,000 square feet of retail in this community is a
I
lot.
have to point out, we've got Plymouth Ski and Sport here in town.
We've already thought about that. We just have them open up a shop up on the mountain.
Which they used to have it.
You know, we just say, look, you're here, we're not gonna compete with you, just, here's some space, go ahead. You know, and like, we don't, the sports shops don't bring a lot of revenue to mountains, like, just sell them skis, I don't care. You know, and, well, that kind of partnership has to play. I mean, we're not gonna put long-term businesses out of business that have been here. I mean, we had a place in Fitchburg, Mass. called Highland Rice, who's been in business since 1780. And Staples opened up, within 3 months they were out of business. So, you know,
Yeah.
I've seen it plenty happen. They're like, come on, guys, gotta balance this thing a little bit. And, all right, well, I appreciate your time.
Thank you very much for your time and coming up.
You can reach out to Woody on a regular basis. He is kind of our mouthpiece up here.
That's the
Yep.
summary.
Okay.
Maybe we could arrange that, whatever
That gives you an idea.
group we're gonna put together through Woody then.
Sure.
Pretty much.
And
There are 6 copies there for each member.
Oh.
Yeah, thanks for bringing up all this stuff.
This is Jeff's done a lot of thinking on this.
Very comprehensive,
Well, I can
thank
see
you.
that, yeah.
We know that the mountain has potential. We know
But
that.
it's not an easy fix.
No, no.
Well, there's-
It's, nobody,
This
anybody
is,
coming in here and saying they've got a magic bullet is,
Yeah,
they're not being realistic.
no, there's no magic bullet with this thing. I mean, this is very similar to projects we've had.
Just gonna take a lot of hard work.
You know, it is,
That's why the communication is so key.
it's a challenge.
And then you tie the financing to performance.
yeah.
You just eliminate all the doubt. And everybody knows how decisions are being made and why. And why that decision was made and what we gave up, what we lost,
And-
what we
and those
gained.
type of milestone things I can sell into our investment corps and say, guys, you don't do
Yeah.
it, why would you expect them to pay you? I mean, I understand what you want us to do here, you know, so it's.
Well, that's, at the core, that's sort of my issue with it, so maybe that sort of flexibility will help. I think it should help with water and sewer, I would think. Let's see if we can have a
Yeah,
meeting.
basically, we'll approach it as just do 4-year true-ups.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, okay, year 1 to 4, if we don't meet those milestones, then the price reduces. 4 to 8, we recover, and it goes back. You know, I mean, that's just, there's no other way, I wouldn't do a year to year because who knows what the economic cycle is gonna be. I mean, most of the time we get out of these things, unlike this one, most of the time you get them out in 24 to 36 months. This one just happened in the last 6 years, so it is what it is.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you
so
very
much.
Take care.
Good to see you.
Good to see you again.
Thanks, Bob. Moving on with our agenda, we go on to the airport master plan update.
Good evening, Mr. McIver. Sharon.
Michael?
Did you get a copy of all of their?
My name is Colin McIver, and I serve as the airport director for the town. And this is an update for where we are in the process of applying for a grant to develop a master plan for the airport. You allowed us to pursue this grant of approximately $125,000 on a December 9, 2013 meeting. And I'd just like to go over the purpose again is to prepare a report and a drawing plan set that can provide the basis from which the airport can make decisions about future improvements. And these plans and reports are forecast for 20 years in development. The funding is the FAA will pick up 90% of the costs, the state will pick up 5%, and the remaining 5% would be on the town and the airport. We expect that this will be less than $10,000 on our end, and we have secured that money through harvesting trees on airport land this winter. So where we are now, we followed through on a consultant selection process in accordance to the FAA advisory circulars, and we had 5 very good submittals, and so we had a nice selection. Our selection committee reviewed and we ranked, and we chose Stantec. They're based out of Scarborough, Maine, and that's where their aviation office is. The project manager is Irvin Deck, and he is the airport manager at Wiscasset, which is a little bit bigger than Plymouth, and he's a very down-to-earth person. It's going to be very good to work with. Our first meeting was on Friday, last Friday. We scoped out the meeting. We talked about the content, expectations, and deliverables, and the timeframes. We're waiting for Stantec to provide the scope. They should provide it this week. a draft of the scope. At that point, as we go forward, they will provide a fee proposal, and with the identified scope, and we will hire an independent fee estimator, which will be our town, Michael Vignali, the town engineer. And he will go through all of these items that will be necessary to perform the master plan, and he will apply a reasonable fee, which he believes. And then we'll compare the two, and we'll negotiate with Stan Tech to bring the two within 10% of each other. At that point, the airport will send a record of negotiations to NHDOT, document the Stan Tech fee, our independent estimate, and any costs that the town has incurred in the process of this, administering the process here. Then our deadline for this is May 1st. That's when NHDOT needs a number to send to the FAA. We should definitely be there before then. We're doing very well on a time frame. Once the funding is received, we can expect that anywhere between June and September. NHDOT, they will issue a grant offer to the town and for review and a signature. They will send the signed grant offer to the governor and council, and then once governor and council approves, the town will issue a notice to proceed for Stan Tech to begin work. At that point, we expect 12 to 18 months to complete the project. And so that's where we are.
One of the first things that the board has to do is to renew an authorization that you had granted to Paul to sign any, grants or contracts on behalf of the town of Plymouth regarding the Plymouth Airport project. The last time that was done was October of 2008. And in order for them to move forward, they need an updated one.
So if the GNC approves the thing in January, or could the award occur in January? That would start the 12 to 15 month process, or?
It's probably sooner.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Maybe midsummer. That was what we
Want to start it
expected.
during the summertime.
Okay.
I didn't hear you address the federal element of this. Is that part of it already approved?
This is, we will be sending, once we have these fees negotiated, then a number will be sent off to the FAA.
Oh, you did say that, yeah.
So that's the time we'll be waiting.
We're a pre-approved status.
Okay.
Just don't know what that dollar amount's going to be
Yeah.
yet. It was up to $125,000.
It's pretty exciting, though. It's kind
So at no impact to the taxpayers. We'll be able to arrive at what that number's going to be by using these professionals.
Yeah, that's great.
And
Too bad it takes so long. Could you do it like in a month? And we would know?
we could if we didn't have to depend on waiting so long on the money, but we like going after federal dollars.
Yeah, I know.
And this is in alignment with the corridor study, and Sharon can give a little bit more on that.
We, as I've said before, as much as people hither and yon, not necessarily these parties here for sure, but I mean, Plymouth really is poised for wonderful things. You folks are really, really lucky. There's other towns in the region that would kill to have the resources and opportunity that you have had and that is continuing to present itself. As Paul said, we got $25,000 of free money with North Country Council to just do a superficial but nonetheless true upgrade of the Tenny Mountain Corridor access management study. Now all of a sudden you've got this opportunity coming in, to upgrade an airport. A lot of towns have not either taken advantage of that by keeping their certification up so they can receive federal funds, or, as I said earlier, in the case of Conway or something, paved over it and put up some retail outlet stores. So this is hugely pivotal for the town, and especially in conjunction of the presentation that we just had. These are the kinds of planning tools that we really, really, really need right now to be able to move forward and realize something like this. So I think it's so great that, Colin got this under everyone's noses and the forefront of everyone's attention. We're working with a great gal, Carol Numola, from DOT, Senior Aviation Planner. Colin, Paul, Kathy, Ann Aber, your finance director, myself are kind of the overseeing working committee on this, and it's going to be huge. I mean, aerial mapping, you know, airport layout design, all kinds of stuff, and especially considering that this airport serves so many functions. Yeah. It does. It really does. It's very pivotal for, you know, emergency issues, for connectability, for private pilots and this and that. And as an economic generator, it could be really huge and still keep its small town scale, but, you know, upgrade itself perhaps over time. So this is wonderful. You lucked out. It's a really good thing.
Right, the plan will identify potential revenues coming in. You have that picture in your folder of this particular plane.
Yep.
That was doing practice landings out on the field last year. I mean, that's a turbo plane. That's a pretty good sized plane. You can bring in 12 passengers.
That particular plane is a 6-passenger executive, but it can be outfitted up to 12 passengers.
Well, they've chosen to go half cargo,
Yeah,
half passenger right now.
It's a fractional airline plane, so people buy in, and businesses and individuals. They're capable. As aviation progresses and innovation progresses, airplanes are becoming more capable of landing on shorter runways, and they're lighter design, and they can carry more, and they can go further. So that's another thing as we look to the future. We can only expect more capability.
All right. Well, getting back to this housekeeping item, I would ask for a motion to reauthorize Paul Freitas to sign agreements, grants, and contracts on behalf of the town of Plymouth regarding the Plymouth Airport project. This authorization shall remain in effect for the duration of the term of Paul Freitas as our town administrator or until revoked by the Plymouth Board of Selectmen.
I would make that motion.
Yeah, seconded, for sure.
Has been moved by Mike, seconded by Armand. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Is approved.
I think as the years go by, the progression of the airport could play a huge role in even what we were just speaking about the Tenny project, because it's all intertwined. And how many towns, we talked about it with the gentleman from Whipple, how many towns have proximity to the highway? Do we have the ski area potentially? We have an airport in town. We have multiple rivers. We have railroad, for crying out loud. Not a lot of towns have that.
Yeah.
I think we're so fortunate, and we need to embrace and encourage the steadfast development of these things.
Right. Anything else for us? Thank you very much, Colin. Yeah, thank you. This is great. And I just became the select board rep to the Airport Planning Advisory Committee, so.
Seeing you then. No, that's great.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, and next on the agenda, we've got the website update.
Yes, as you know, several months ago, we began looking into other sources for websites when Tech had gotten back to us with a price, I believe, around $5,000. We've been looking into that, and Bill's been helping, and I received some information from Virtual Town Hall, which is a company that does websites. Those prices are kind of high. In the meantime, though, unsung hero that's always behind the scenes is Jules, who's been working on the website as we've been going along. I know I'd go onto the website and say, well, this page isn't that bad as far as navigating through it. Not knowingly, I wasn't aware that Jules had been working in the background and fixing things. And she picked up the ball when she noticed that about a month from now, even the program that we use is going to be obsolete. So we wouldn't be able to keep up with it. So though we're still looking, you're going to start seeing changes on the website. Jules is, like I said, Jules is doing a great percentage of that with those changes, but we still want to look forward to seeing if something could be out there that mainstay as our text service now. They still happen to be the best deal on the table. It's quite costly and nothing seems to come for free anymore. There's no volunteer services. We'll help you with your website at no cost. And so what we're doing now is we're concentrating on the areas that we feel, with your input, that you want changed on the current website. And Jules has gotten to that point that she can start making some of those changes, and I'd like to get her some help within the staff as we go forward in the town hall. And, but check out the website. There's been some changes made. Navigate through it. We've looked at a town and do a sandwich, and they seem to have a website that would be kind of suitable for Plymouth.
Can we put the bell picture on it?
The plow picture?
The bell.
Oh, the bell. I'm just thinking of the plow.
Yeah, the plow picture.
The plows. Yeah. Yes.
I like the bell picture.
Yep, we could.
That's so good.
And, you know, I was thinking, this is only tangentially related, but I don't have a listed telephone number anymore. Because we got our landline, you know, disconnected. I'm just thinking.
As most of us are in that same situation.
I'm thinking, you know, so somebody couldn't find my number if they wanted it unless they already knew me. So I'm wondering if this, I'm sticking my neck out.
I mean, that could be included on the website. I know PSU, when you go to the staff directory, the directory, it gives office locations and phone numbers. I mean, if anybody needs any of our numbers at this point, they can call the town hall and get them. And that's always an option, but I don't see any reason not to include that on the website at the point when we were able to do it.
And are you saying that I was thinking I thought you said something like the underlying structure of this thing was not going to be supported after
Next month.
Right.
next month?
That's the next month, oh my gosh.
And so, then what happens?
I could have Jules put us on Zoom out and just come out and speak for a minute.
Oh, sure.
That would be great. The question, Jules, is what happens
I think she heard.
next month when our website is no longer viable?
That's why I've been building a WordPress site.
Okay. Oh, that's
It's already built. They helped me. DreamHost helped me kind of put in the framework, and I've just been duplicating and copying what we already have on our existing website. And so it's going to look very familiar. It's not live yet, but I can make it go live at any time. So for April 15th, which is the deadline, when it's so old now that they don't want to support it anymore. And nobody's going to support it. It's just hasn't been updated since 2009. So this one here is, it's a basic site. It's easy to use. It's a standards WordPress, if you're familiar with it. And we could just go with that, or you can go with something else.
It gives us,
will work for now.
it gets us through until we figure out what we're going to do next. That's
Short-term
great.
solution,
Thank you so much, Jules.
Yeah, sure.
That's great.
So I did approach the university, the IT chair, and we actually thought we might have like a project for a senior to do like the Plymouth Town website, and that kind of fell through. So then I did approach actually PES's John Martin, who's the technology director, and he does like WordPress sites as well. And he did the PES website, and it's kind of neat, at least the elementary school. And he did offer to sit down with us as well, if we want to like, do like a gap analysis between the town website and where we want to go. I don't know if that's the direction we want or not, or whether he can help you out, but.
Okay, yeah, I know him, so.
Yeah.
All right, yeah.
Not many people get to see Jules on this side of the camera.
I know. Jules,
Turn the camera around and zoom in.
And she doesn't receive or need any supervision at all. Her supervision usually comes along the lines as we need you for something, ASAP.
Yep.
And in between all that, she picks up all these balls that might drop. And no, this was a good pickup on
Yeah,
her
that's
part.
great, because that would have been bad if our thing, didn't work.
Right. So let me know what, you want to see on there.
thank you so much.
So, thanks.
Thanks.
She's still smiling.
How does it feel?
All right. So we have no unfinished business. Is there any public comment this evening? Thank you, Frank. All right, in that case, I would request a motion to go into a non-public session in accordance with RSA 91-A:3, 2. I believe we're talking about.
I would make that motion. I do make that motion.
Second.
It's been moved by Mike, seconded by Bill. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. We are in non-public.